I know that this isn't like a ultra original idea. I'm sure pretty much every booktuber on the platform has made a video like this at some point, but I saw Elle from Elliot Brooks doing this video, so I'm going to link her video in the description down below because she's the one that I saw doing it that made me want to do it. I'm sure there are a lot of popular books that I have not read, but these are just the ones that came to mind while I was watching Elle's video and like just thinking about like the books I want to read this year versus like books that I know I'm not going to read. Some of these are books or series that I might pick up and start like later on, but most of them are ones that I have almost no interest in or have no interest in because of the current state of the series, which will make more sense when I get to certain books, but there's quite a few, so I'm gonna just jump into it. I also try to avoid books that I like physically own that I know I will eventually get to, so like I haven't read like Wheel of Time, but I have Eye of the World and I intend to read that book this year and so on and so forth, but these are more like books and series that like I don't think I will get to soon, if at all. There's also a lot where it's just like authors. So the first series that I feel like will surprise a lot of people that I have not read and that I don't want to read is A Song of Ice and Fire. I have next to no interest in reading this book, which if my sister is watching this will probably like crush her heart and soul because she absolutely loves the Song of Ice and Fire series, but it doesn't appeal to me. A big part of that is that it is not finished and there is no hope or promise that we will ever get even the next book, let alone the whole series. And like I just personally not interested in getting into a series that I think will never be finished. I just have so little interest in starting a series that I'm not sure will ever be finished when there are just so many other things that I'm way more interested in reading. The next series is The Chronicles of Narnia. I did not read Chronicles of Narnia when I was younger, when I feel like it's the most appropriate age to read Chronicles of Narnia, and I do not foresee myself ever reading it. I don't know that I will enjoy the heavy-handed religious symbolism, and it's not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I don't think it's really for me. I just think like that's not really my taste. I don't think I'll enjoy it. I also think I am probably just a little bit too old to enjoy that series anymore, and so I'm not sure I will ever pick it up because I'm just afraid that I'm past the time in which I could ever enjoy it, and so reading it would be almost a waste of time. The next thing is actually an author that I've never read anything from, and I don't think I will, and that is Sarah J. Maas. I never picked up the Throne of Glass series, and I'm not interested in reading Sarah J. Maas's works at all. I'm gonna say, from what I've heard, Selena Sardothian does not sound like she would appeal to me at all as a protagonist, and Feyre seems even less appealing than Selena. And I've heard that the books like lack a lot of plot and substance, and like I could be really wrong, but I've read excerpts of her writing style and it does not appeal to me enough for me to like risk getting into something where I have a really strong feeling I'm not going to like the lack of plot or the characters. So I don't think I'll be reading Sarah J. Maas anytime soon, if at all. The next two are also authors. The next one, Cassandra Clare, is another one. I have never read anything in the Mortal Instruments series, and like, first of all, now there are far too many and I don't know where to start. I don't understand. And two, there's like a weird incest thing at some point between characters or something, and like, that's just really not my thing. The next author that I've never read anything from is Leigh Bardugo, and I am not closed off to reading books by Leigh Bardugo, but I don't know where to start. I am interested in reading Ninth House, but I've heard mixed reviews about it. I'm also interested in like the Six of Crows duology or whatever, but I've heard you should read Shadow and Bone, that like trilogy first, and I don't think I'll like the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I've heard that it reads like on the younger side of YA, which is not like typically if you're looking at YA on the spectrum. I tend to like the older side of things because I'm 24 years old. So I don't think I will like the Shadow and Bone trilogy, just because I think I'm probably a little bit too old for the lower half of the YA spectrum, and I don't know. I would like to know the magic system well, because I really like a good magic system, and I've heard that you don't get it a lot in the Six of Crows duology, and so it kind of leans really heavily on the Grisha trilogy. So I'm not sure. I might read Ninth House. If I really like it, I might give her another try. I don't know. I also have never read Aragon, which I think is one of the more surprising things on this list, because I love Lord of the Rings so much, but I just didn't read Aragon as a child, and I'm now afraid that again I am too old, especially because I know Christopher Paolini was like a teenage author, and I'm so afraid that I'm not going to like it because it leans so heavily on Lord of the Rings, but for a younger audience, and I am now 24 years old. Similar to Aragon and also to Chronicles of Narnia is the His Dark Materials trilogy, or whatever. I wasn't allowed to read it when I was a child because I went to Catholic school, and the Pope or something denounced it, and now I'm like, am I too old for it? And I don't love books that have heavy religious symbolism one way or the other. Like, I know that it's like anti-religious or something, but I really don't care for that when it's so obviously one-to-one to a real-life religion. Like, obviously I don't mind religion in books, but I don't love when they have a very obvious one-to-one parallel with a religion in the real world. And I think that I won't like His Dark Materials because it is so obviously like, this is exactly like the Catholic Church, except I'm not calling it the Catholic Church, but it is the Catholic Church. I don't love that in books, so I don't think I'll like His Dark Materials, so I'm just not gonna read it. I have never read Nora Roberts. Now, I do have a Nora Roberts book on my shelf. I have year one, but every time I think about picking it up, it just doesn't like call my name. I actually have two Nora Roberts books. I think the other one's a romance book, which is probably never going to get read because I personally like to consume my romance in trashy shoujo mangas because I'm garbage. So I'm not sure I will pick that up, but year one I might like. I'm every time I think about picking it up, it doesn't call to me, so I'm like afraid that I bought that book for nothing, and then I'll never read any Nora Roberts. But she's incredible, being able to publish 4 books a year. That is just I can't even begin to fathom that. So good on her, but I'm not sure if I will ever get around to picking up her works, even though I have 2 of her books on my bookshelf. Another young adult series that I don't think I'll read is the Lunar Chronicles. This is another one where like I feel like I missed its heyday in like popularity because I was in like a weird, like, I spent 5.5 years getting a lit bachelor's degree and a lit master's degree, and all I had time to do was read the books that were assigned to me. And so pretty much every fantasy and like adult fantasy and young adult fantasy or sci-fi that came out in those 5.5 years, I didn't touch. I didn't have time to read anything else, and now I feel like I'm past, I'm not interested in it anymore. No one's talking about it, and like I'm more interested in keeping up with current publishing in YA because I want to be published in YA. It makes sense for me, I feel like, to keep up with more current reads. So if a slightly older YA fantasy series doesn't like jump out at me as something like I have to read it, I will probably skip it. And Lunar Chronicles is just, I am pretty sick of retellings. At this point, like, I'm no longer all that interested in retellings, and even if they're very originals and like they're interesting, because I feel like Cinderella's like a cyborg or something. That's the only one I know anything about is like Cinder. She's like, I don't know, she's a cyborg in some way, or she's got like, I don't know, some robot parts or whatever. But it just doesn't, like, retellings are not interesting to me, and because those are older retellings and older publications, there's just very little incentive for me to go back and read them when there are more modern retellings coming out, like A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I don't see a reason to go back and read it, so I won't.